You're watching The Business of Law, brought to you by Bloomberg Law and the ABA Journal. I'm Lee Pacchia. A couple of weeks ago, President Obama backed the idea of making law school a two-year degree. Joining me now to unpack this concept, we have Anthony Crowell, Dean of New York Law School. Full disclosure, people, I graduated from this school way back in 2006, and it feels like a million years ago. Welcome, sir. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Lee.
So, is 2 years of law school enough time to make a good lawyer?
We think that the program we're developing at New York Law School strikes the right balance by taking the traditional curriculum of 3 years, 86 credits, and putting it into a two-year frame. And that will allow students to get the full benefit of a curriculum that gives them an opportunity for not only the in-class training, but also clinical and experiential learning.
How many, well, when does this come online? It's not in progress this year, is it?
This is a new program. It's going to be coming online in January of 2015.
And how many students do you expect to get into it once it's up and running?
We expect to have somewhere between 25 and 40 students in our first class that will come in.
And what does that look like on a percentage basis for those not familiar with NYLS? How many students total at the school?
We have a total of 1,200 students at the school. We had an incoming class this past year of 326, so it's a small percentage, but it's an honors program, and we expect to really evaluate this format and understand how to grow it and give students one option to pursue a degree in 2 years, as well as with our traditional 3-year program for full-time students and then a 4-year program for those who are working.
Yeah, it's such an interesting concept because you're basically putting the best, for lack of a better word, forgive me, students at NYLS into a program that's going to give them 2 years of legal education. Are the Scoutins of the world going to hire students like that? I mean, is there any confidence out there in the marketplace that 2 years is going to be enough to go get the kind of job that, say, a valedictorian at NYLS would get had they had 3 years of legal education?
Well, big firms have been hiring from NYLS steadily, and we expect that this will not change the game in terms of the ability for these students to get jobs at big firms. What we do is by putting the curriculum of 3 years into 2, we're giving them an opportunity, students who in all likelihood have worked for a few years, gaining very meaningful experience, giving them a chance to truncate the number of years they spend in law school, but to benefit from their professional experience, the so-called endurance tested, to do this year-round program times 2. So,
have firms articulated that they're comfortable with something like this? I mean, essentially, I would imagine it means that firms are going to have to put more time, money, and effort into training people when they come on board if they only have 2 years of legal ed.
The benefit of our program, and I have spoken to law firms who have been supportive of this, is that the big question was, are students going to be able to get enough practical training while they're in school to be able to enter the workforce? What's interesting is when I started at the law school a little more than a year ago, there was a debate about the needs of the profession to have practice-ready, so-called practice-ready attorneys coming out of law school. And then came about this question of, shouldn't law school be 2 years? And it's tough to reconcile that. So what our program tries to do is just that. Give the opportunities for really fine clinical and experiential learning in that second year of study, and opportunities to work outside of the classroom during that second year. And then, once they graduate after the 2 years, we're offering the third year as a postgraduate fellowship. That's a fellowship where they will be paid to do work under skilled attorneys and further develop their legal skills if they want to be in that program.
Now, as you said before, we're not talking about a ton of students entering this program in 2015. That said, would you need to raise tuition to make up for the lost revenue?
No. While this is an honors program, we will not need to raise tuition. Many of our students receive scholarships for the 3- and 4-year programs currently. This is a small program with honor students. They'll be receiving $25,000 each year of the 2 years minimum. And so when put together, that will reduce the cost of a total legal education by a third. We don't expect this to have any impact on our overall budget of the law school in terms of us to have the need to raise tuition. And we're also in discussions with private individuals and organizations about supporting the program, both financially and as partners for the fellowship.
Because it's still going to look like an expenditure for the school at the end of the day.
Well, it's a benefit for the school to create a new program and it's really a new product line of sorts to expand opportunities for students to come and get a legal education. One of the things that's interesting is students who have been working really question whether they should leave their jobs and take 3 years off or go to law school over a 4-year period for part-time. This is very similar to what business schools do. They require students to get some professional experience that is meaningful. Then they go to school for 2 years, and they often go back to where they've worked or somewhere else. We expect to be working closely with employers who may want to see their employees get legal education, but not necessarily over a protracted number of years. And we expect to work very closely with the recruiters at firms and nonprofit organizations and others who would want our students to understand the benefits of this program and be part of our 3rd year once they graduate.
I want to switch gears here. Another concept that came out of the President's recent remarks centers around the whole idea of creating a federal ranking system for all of higher education. If that happens, and it includes law schools, I would imagine U.S. News World Report's rankings of law schools is going to become less important, and the whole stranglehold that U.S. News has over the system, which has been talked about a lot on this show, it's going to change. If that comes to pass and U.S. News World Report is no longer so dominantly important, how does that change the way you do your job?
Well, since I've become part of legal education, my philosophy has been the more transparency, the better. What this does is allows the consumer, prospective students, to get a snapshot of the activities and the outcomes at a school. Right now, U.S. News is one of the only sources that's available. Our law school, as well as others, are required to submit reports to the ABA that are published for the public, but U.S. News is really the one source that students go to, and it is not necessarily the fullest picture. It is one picture of what's available and what a law school produces in terms of its outcomes. It doesn't necessarily take into account regional variabilities. How does a school in Alabama compare to a school in New York City? Steps from Wall Street and the courts. They're almost irreconcilable in terms of trying to make comparisons, but yet that's what U.S. News does.
Right, and University of Alabama, of course, is usually, I think, in the top 30 or top 40. It ranks very, very highly compared to some schools in New York.
So this may be more probative data in some senses, and U.S. News has tried to give the consumer information, but it really does rank in ways that is apples and oranges.
So you support this idea, I take it. Do you think it'll come to pass?
It remains to be seen, but I think that, again, more transparency is always better, and a system that allows students to best understand schools in the market they want to practice in is very helpful.
Good stuff. Dean, thank you so much for stopping by. That's Dean Anthony Crowell from New York Law School. If you'd like to learn more about the cases and issues we just discussed, be sure to go check out our offerings on BloombergLaw.com and also on the Bloomberg Terminal. You can see more of our videos on YouTube, and you can follow our updates, of course, on Twitter. I'm Pacchia. Thanks for watching.